She's the author of The Secrets to Happiness at Work and Bring Work to Life, and she regularly contributes to Forbes and Fast Company and does consulting for companies around the world. Our second speaker is joining us from Bangkok, and her name is Rashmi Sharma, and she's a global learning and well-being partner at Unilever. She's a thought leader with over 13 years of international experience in HR, focused on learning and leadership development. She's an idea catalyst, a TEDx speaker, and has been voted the top 25 HR professionals in India and the top 10 women in the Economic Times Young Leaders list. Rashmi, nice to see you there. Welcome both of you here on stage at South Summit. Tracey, I would love to start with you, and I'd like to start off just with a quick check. What does happiness and productivity actually have to do with each other? How are they related?
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it and looking forward to our conversation. You know, happiness and productivity are utterly connected. There is so much research on this relationship and on happiness generally. When people are happier, they tend to perform better. They tend to be more productive. So the relationship operates in that direction. It also operates in the other direction. When people are productive, when they feel like they're contributing, they are happier. We all have an instinct to matter. So when we're producing, when we're performing, that contributes to our happiness. The other thing we know from research, and all of the research that I'm citing is global, the other thing we know from research is that when we're happier, we tend to set bigger, more ambitious goals. We tend to be more focused on learning, and we tend to be more likely to reach our goals. So this is about productivity and performance today. It's also about productivity and performance tomorrow as we set goals and learn and continuously improve.
Thank you very much. And I know, Rashmi, you're sitting in Bangkok, basically on the other side of the world from Tracey. And I was wondering, like, you're working at Unilever, you're having maybe a different perspective on this, at least from a cultural perspective. And I was wondering, what do you have to add? How is this being perceived in your part of the world, of this link between productivity and happiness?
Thanks, Daniel. Great to be here. I hope you guys can hear me well. So this is something more of a personal mission and what I've been working on, and especially given Unilever's job, it just helps me live out that purpose really well. And I 110% agree with what Tracey shared, but just adding a different angle to it, our bodies, if you look at just genetically, our bodies are designed to work better when we are in a relaxed, happy state. So actually the amount of oxygen which the brain gets, we all know that, right? We call it fight or flight mode, stress mode, relaxation mode. The actual amount of oxygen to the brain actually reduces if we are stressed out or not happy. And that definitely affects you, not just as a person, but what you deliver at work. So I absolutely agree that having a stress-free kind of existence is really important to be more productive.
I just want to take it back one more step, because we're talking about productivity, but I kind of wonder, what do we even mean when we say productivity? Is productivity the output that you're going to have at the end of the year, your revenue? Is it more long-term? Is it short-term? Is it personal? Tracey, can you give us more insight on what do we mean when we say productivity?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we definitely need to focus on this question for sure. There's a customer that I was working with that always comes to mind when this question comes up. They had a global IT department, and of course everybody went home for the pandemic and everybody was working from home. They were an agile shop. They measured velocity, which is of course a measure of throughput over time, and their velocity increased by 18% when they were away from the office. So they said, hey, we're all set. However, their attrition rate increased by 30%. And so we can think about productivity as kind of turning the crank, getting things done, and that's okay. But a bigger picture is to think about performance. What about attraction and retention? What about engagement? What about innovation? Because over time, if we have to attract new people and train them, if we lose out on innovation because we're not connecting, because we're not as engaged, then productivity suffers. So I think we need a big picture definition of productivity. And I think we need to think about the nature of our work as well. When we are doing more rote or routine work, that is a different kind of productivity than when we're doing problem solving or work that's more ambiguous or requires more speed or more complexity. And so I think we want to think holistically about what we mean and what our organizations need from us in terms of output.
Great. And Rashmi, what does that mean for Unilever? What do you understand with productivity, and how does that affect the way that you're doing business?
So Daniel, see, the formula is the same across companies, right? It's throughput over number of hours, divided by number of people and all of that. But I don't know, I was just listening to the session before this, actually two sessions before this, when there was a panel discussion and somebody mentioned a great point. They said we have to stop thinking linearly. We need a new way of thinking. And especially for a startup and who is in the business of creating new things, I'm not sure if productivity can be defined by just like amount of work created by the number of people slash hours. I think we need to look at it in terms of the number of new ideas, the number of learnings, the number of experiments done, failed, all of those things. And for me, the way I would define it for the audience is how can you get to flow state. And flow, if many might be familiar with the state of flow where you are working at your best, you are the most innovative, creative, great work comes out of you, great decisions, great thinking. How soon can you get into that state of flow, and how long can you stay in that state of flow? For me, that would be real productivity.
It seems like there is a lot that we still need to look at. How can we bring in these new notions of productivity into our organizations? As our clock is ticking, I would like to shift the conversation to one more thing, though. As we heard, we're living kind of through the maybe tail end, maybe we're still in the middle of it, but we're in this pandemic, and I think we've talked a lot during this pandemic about the health and well-being, but I would really like to hear from you, Tracy. What do you think about like the situation that we're in? What do we need to do for more happiness and more productivity in this post-pandemic future?
Yeah, how do we create more happiness? That is critical. We know that well-being is utterly a trend for the future of work as organizations view it more systemically, more centrally, more strategically. And happiness is actually really good for business because people are more physically well when they're happy. They give more discretionary effort when they're happy. Even at a country level, when citizens are happier, the country generally has greater GDP, greater educational attainment, and greater physical health. So how do we create the conditions for happiness? It's better if we don't pursue happiness as its own goal because it can remind us what we don't already have. It's better if we pursue the conditions that are right for happiness. And those have to do with purpose, thinking about how our work matters and how we can make a contribution no matter what kind of work we do. Really making sure that we're staying extraordinarily connected with colleagues, building toward community, thinking about both our obligations and our responsibilities toward others in the best possible ways. So purpose, community. Another is learning and stretch. When we set ourselves up for learning and stretch, that is also a condition for happiness. And then also the idea of just really performing well. And this gets us back to our productivity conversation. When we can bring our gifts and talents, when we can perform well, those are the kinds of things that set us up for the greatest happiness.
Great. And bringing it over to the other side of the stage and of the world, Rashmi, what do you see? What is necessary for more happiness and productivity in our post-pandemic world?
So, in Unilever, Daniel, we do talk about well-being a lot, which we believe enables our performance. And we have a simple way of looking at it. It's a combination of your physical well-being, mental well-being, emotional well-being, and purpose. And some of it, Tracy already spoke about. And I think the trend I see, I mean, we already have like chief well-being officers as roles coming up more and more in large corporates, large-sized corporates. I definitely see that as a trend going, dedicated teams, dedicated people looking at well-being and engagement and happiness of people, which I think is great. The other trend I see is leaders being encouraged to be more empathetic, be have the traits of empathy, humanness. In fact, I spoke about how they need to be followers in my TED talk. And I think in the last few weeks, so many people have reshared that talk with me after 2 years of having done it, because I think it's just gotten more and more. And post COVID is going to be all about empathetic leadership. And that's another trend I feel like it has come of age.
Wow, nice. That actually resonates a lot from the panel that we had just two sessions ago. I hear a lot of the similar topics there. Coming to the end of our panel, I would just like to ask both of the speakers to complete a sentence. You can also do 2 or 3 sentences, but what is your wish for 2022 in terms of productivity and more specifically about happiness? Tracy.
Yeah, this is big moments of opportunity for us. I think, and I'm gonna do more than just complete your sentence. You're gonna have to forgive me. When we're so fundamentally disrupted globally, it gives us new opportunities. And from the greatest barriers come the greatest innovations. So this is our moment to reset and reimagine. This disruption has caused us to think so consciously about our work, why we work, what we do, where we work, with whom we work, all of those sort of conscious levels of thinking about our contributions to communities are wonderful new beginnings for reset and reimagination. So my wish is that we really think consciously about that and create for ourselves kind of our own agency, our happiness moving forward, and really realize that work can be a source of happiness, not a source necessarily of drudgery. And that we really create the conditions for community and really giving our best in terms of the structural elements where we contribute toward a broader happiness for the whole. No choice is perfect. Choices come with pros and cons, and we're not all happy all the time. There'll be ebbs and flows, but overall, we can make the best choices possible for our own happiness and to influence the happiness of others around us in our community. So that's my hope. Reset, reimagine.
Wonderful, I love it. Actually, above my desk at home, I have a postcard that says, "Work is not the opposite of fun." And I try to look at that as often as I can, especially in some of the tougher moments where work is maybe not as fun. And so, Tracy, over to you. Your wish for the year 2022.
Tracy already went, Daniel. It's my turn. You called me Tracy.
Sorry, Rashmi. I'm sorry. Rashmi, it is your turn.
That's okay. That's okay. So I have a little bit of a different way of looking at it. And yes, work can be fun. And if you look at a lot of data, we really need to do a lot of work to make work more engaging and more fun. While that is happening, my wish for people is to stop putting pressure on work to fulfill your life in terms of the happiness. Happiness is an entire life's job. Make sure you find happiness in many parts of your life, including work. So my wish is, instead of constantly looking at work-life balance, which we know for startup community probably doesn't exist as the way ideally it should. Change that to create your life's work. And that's what most of the founders are looking to do. They want to create their life's work. How can they fit many parts of their life in that and overall be a happy professional?
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to both of you for this session. To the audience, you can find them on all of the social media out there. You can follow them. You can hear more of their insights. Tracey also has 2 books out there if you want to dive deeper into this topic. Help me and give it up for them for a round of applause.